Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the second episode of Buckle Up, an ultra-running conversation. This week, Simon and I chat with our friend Mark Bauer. Mark's been an ultra-running enthusiast and participant for more than 15 years, completing notable races like Leadville Bike and Run 100s, Tushars 100K, Silver Rush 50, and Grand Mesa 50, where he achieved fifth place overall in 2022. Recently, Mark conquered the Tahoe 200 and the Javelina 100. In this episode, we delve into various topics, including Black Canyon, the unfortunate passing of Kiptum, a drug test mishap, and address queries in the Coach's Corner. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian. We have
Hey guys.
Simon's here. Simon's back from Black Canyon, and we have a special guest today as well. Today our guest is none other than our good friend Mark Bauer. Mark and I live in the same town. We are probably 7 miles apart right now on the other end on either side of town, and Mark and I have been racing and running together for a long time. It's a small town that we live in Western Colorado, and Mark has some accolades to his own running career. He has led how many Leadvilles? One Leadville, 2 bikes?
No, just one.
So 1 run, 1 bike at Leadville, 100 milers. And most recently, Tahoe 200-ish miles.
220.
Stop, Simon. He's finally stopped talking about the extra mileage. He finally stopped telling me how many extra miles it was.
Don't want Candace to hear that and get mad.
So, with all that said, Mark is been around the sport for a long time, 15 plus years. He's super knowledgeable. He is what I was telling Simon last episode about Bill Duper is Mark is like a super fan as well, and Mark has a ton of knowledge, insider information, follows all the sport insides and outs. And I don't know if he's got a top 10 list. Do you have a top 10 list for this weekend?
For this weekend?
This past weekend, yeah.
For
Black Canyon?
Like who my top 10 were?
Yeah.
I mean, I did it on did you guys fill out your free trail fantasy picks?
I have not, because I would put myself first and I would lose all the time. So
Actually, Simon, you weren't an option this time.
I was not? Oh,
no.
that's not cool.
After I picked you, what race was that I picked you?
Javelina.
Was it?
Yeah, and you beat me on that one.
And
so.
you were just a little outside of 5th place. So, yeah, my picks didn't actually do that great. I did have Hayden Hawks. I had his buddy Nate that he trains with. I had those 2 guys in the top 10, and I think the rest of my top 10 kind of missed. John Ray, so on.
So let's back up a step, Mark, real quick. Just Simon and I both are familiar with you. We've all run together and hung out inside and outside of the races. But why don't you back up a step and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you find yourself sitting here with us 2 here at Buckle Up.
Buckle up. Well, I grew up on the East Coast in Baltimore, Maryland. Played a bunch of team sports, basketball, baseball, soccer. Did some swimming. Played the piano. You know, all the growing up good stuff on the East Coast where you're in the concrete jungle. And went to college in South Carolina. Played a lot of basketball there. Then I guess you could say school and myself, we didn't really mix. I moved from home to a fraternity house, and things didn't work out like they were supposed to. and had some friends that lived out in Colorado, actually just up the road from you, Brian, at Sunlight. And they were going back for the next summer and asked me if I wanted to come. And I was like, sure, Colorado sounds cool. So moved out to Colorado 27 years ago with $100 and have never left.
And you have like 125 right now.
Yeah, right. Maybe 125.01. But I was a snowboard bum, worked in restaurants for a while. I think met you 25 years ago working at Sunlight. We both I guess cooked, and I think I worked in the bar also and the rental shop. I think then we hung out a little there, went our own ways for a little while, and then I think you were doing triathlons, and I found my way into the triathlon world. Not like you with Ironman and whatnot. I had no want to run a marathon on the road. That sounds horrible still to me. So I think we're doing like sprints and whatnot here in town. And then you graduated to Leadville 100 and asked me if I would pace you for your first one. I think that was back in 2010 over Hope Pass. And I think I picked up that book, Born to Run, like right after that. And I was like, gung-ho, let's go. So, yeah, ever since then, I've been pretty much hooked on running trails. And then I met Simon, I guess, that 21, maybe 2021.
Yeah, something like that. At the finish line of Leadville, actually. Right. When that was the year that Nora and we were super nervous about it, and she made friends. That's when she met Brian. I remember I saw you two, like you and Leon, at the finish line, and I was very intimidated and impressed. I had no clue who you guys were, but I was like, did they already like finish like way before, and like they're kind of pro runner? Because even when you describe like, you know, your background, like playing basketball, I was like, yeah, like on Zoom you don't see it, but that makes a lot of sense. Whereas piano surprised for me. I'm like, basketball, of course. Piano, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, I wasn't very good, Simon. But, actually, you're right. We hung out with Nora, most of the day there at Twin Lakes, and she was a pretty cool cat. And we ran into her at the finish line as you were finishing, and then we all ended up hanging out watching Golden Hour. And I always tear up during Golden Hour, shed some tears and cheer, and watch the hardcore people finish.
That's so true. Like at first I was like, oh man, like who are these pro athletes? Like that's so intimidating. And then we watched a Golden Hour, and I was like, wow, like they're really chill. They really care about people, about other runner. I was I was like, I like these guys. They're cool.
Yeah. So then I feel like every year since Leadville's been our reunion. Met up with you here and there some other times. So the friendship just budded from there, and excited to actually got to finally run with you at Javelina last year, which is super cool, and get to run with both of you guys at Leadville this year, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, we're racing. I mean, we're all friendly and everything now, but everything goes then.
So Mark's making light of the whole Leadville situation, but Mark's really found his calling in Leadville. He owns land in Twin Lakes. He got engaged on top of Sugarloaf Pass.
Actually, Hope Pass.
Oh, engaged on Hope Pass, married on Sugarloaf.
Correct. Yep.
He's getting them flip flops, and I wasn't there for the engagement. I don't know why, but I was there for the wedding.
I think you were running.
We might have been starting that morning. Yeah.
And Leanne and I actually worked at. We volunteered at Winfield that year. So the day before, we went up there, and I got down on one knee and carried that big rock all the way up to the Tahoe pass.
At least she had to carry it down, right?
Make it even. But yeah, I asked her to marry me, and I'm not sure if after that we may have paced you after that from Winfield.
No, I can't remember. Yeah, all the years start to blend together after a while.
Right. So, yeah. But yeah, love Leadville.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. Thanks, Mark, for introducing yourself. I'll move on to the next step on our little agenda here. And we were going to talk about Black Canyon. That's the most recent event. Simon was there with his wife, Nora.
Oh, yeah.
Is he wearing a shirt? Oh, yeah, he's always rocking a shirt. I'm not rocking any brand tonight.
I don't buy clothing anymore. Everything I wear is a race I've done. And I'm at the stage where I was like, I need to throw away some. That's like, I don't know which one, though.
So, Simon, how was Black Canyon? You had some weather, you had some issues. Before we
Yeah.
get into, like, the meat and potatoes of, like, golden tickets and that kind of stuff, what's your firsthand account of it? Yourself and Nora ran the 100K, I believe, on Saturday, right?
Yeah, we both ran together. Yeah, I mean, my story is definitely more mid to late packer. We definitely took it easy, but the race was a little bit chaotic because there was snow at the start, and there was a delay of 2 hours, which we learned basically just before going there. So snowy, muddy, wet, cold at the beginning, but as always, it's a gorgeous race. For those who haven't done it, it's beautiful single track most of the time, point to point 100K. So that's pretty cool. But you do face the elements in terms of temperature, not in terms of weather, but just it's really cold at the start. And we had to choose between the first wave with the elite runner or doing the other wave. And the decision is very easy. You want to get the hell out as soon as possible because it is cold up there. So we just went, and it was muddy and gross. But the temperature, because it was cold, I was pretty sure all day that like the pro runner would do very well because they can just slam through that mud, and really they're a very good technical runner. And then the rest of the day was pretty chill. The trail became much better when we were at lower altitude. It was warmer. Then there were decent river crossing, but I think Black Canyon is normal to be like that. So it was a fun day. I'm very, very proud of my wife. We finished together. We did the whole thing together, which is for those who've ever heard of the IKEA test. Running an ultra marathon with your significant other is the sports version of IKEA test because tension can run high, but sometimes it can work. Because I mean, Mark did Tahoe with Leon, which I think when you told me originally, my reaction was like, you guys are fucking stupid. This is the worst idea ever. Like, I mean, this is not gonna happen, but you made it work. So we decided, hey, we can do 200-ish mile. We can do 100K.
So is that what changed your mind, Simon? Because I remember asking you before, like, if you guys were going to run together, and you were like, nope. So
I was always fine doing it. I think Nora was a little bit more nervous about it. I think she's the kind of person that would really not want to slow me down, but I really don't care about my finishing time. So I was able to really explain that to her and like, look, like I'm not racing tomorrow. It's just gonna be fun if we do it together. And we just last minute decided to change our mind. And I think that was a good call because then we could support each other. You know, you always have ups and downs in a race like that. And when I'm down, she's there for me. When she's down, I'm there for her. So maybe it's a little slower, but honestly, just for a pretty cool experience.
When do you think the mud started to clear up a little bit? Like
yeah,
halfway,
like 7 miles.
No, 7-8 miles.
7 mile, yeah. Like it was very quick. And I'm sure a good technical runner wouldn't care so much. For me, I had brand new shoes. I was like, man, my nice and shiny shoes were gross immediately. But it was very quick. And it was clear, and I saw the results afterwards. I couldn't follow it live, but it was clear in my mind that like the pro would be able to potentially break record or have a really, really good time because the better lower temperature for them was helpful. And I think as a mid to late pack runner, another disadvantage was that we had more nighttime because we started so much later. But for them, it's not an issue. They're done way before us. So yeah. Did you follow the race?
I saw your Instagram pics, or one of you, you or Nora's, and I think Nora had mud up to her knees, like a good coating cake of mud. And then I tried to convince my wife, Katie, to jump in one time with me and try it. I thought, if you guys, both of you have done it, why can't my wife and I do it? And she firmly turned me down.
It's the wise decision to not do it. That's for sure.
Yeah, or I didn't actually get to follow day of because I was out on a venture myself that day, but I did go back and watch the live stream, and Aravaipa did. I mean, as always, they do such a great job. So it was interesting to check it out and watch the battles unfold there between the men and the women. And you, I mean, congrats to you and Nora, because you weren't that slow. You got your Western States qualifier out of the way already for this year, so you were under that time. So congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's I have done it twice before. It's my slowest time, but I think the condition for back of the pack were a little worse, and that's justifying it a little bit. But yeah, I'm Western State qualified now, so I just have to be really, really, really lucky in the draw next year.
Hey, so answer me this: why is 100K a qualifier for a 100-miler when typically another 100-miler is a qualifier for a 100-miler?
That's a good question. I don't know the full background there, but it's also, you need to, I think it's 17-hour for Black Canyon. So the cutoff is broader than what would be a qualifier. So you have also a time requirement. And I mean, there's so many Western State qualifier. I think it's more about they're looking for races that are a certain size in terms of number of runner that have been run for several years. And I think these are the main criteria. They're not necessarily looking for races that are particularly more challenging or anything like that. And I think if you can run the 100K in a decent time, you're likely able to finish a 100-mile in 30 hours.
Yeah, I just don't know why. I wasn't even sure why 100K would be a qualifier for that particular race. I thought there was something unique about it. Is there some substantial amount of climbing, or other than mud this year, anything else stand out that's oddball?
No, I mean, it's, in my mind, it's a fast 100K. There's maybe 5,000 or 6,000 feet of gain, but overall it's a net downhill. It's not that technical. It's mostly runnable. The slopes are not so steep, and they're never so big. Yeah, and I don't know why it's a golden ticket race, but I think in terms of 100K, that might be the biggest one in the US. I don't know if you guys know.
I think that's right, because Bandera's not anymore, and I think the 100Ks that are Western State qualifiers all have a time that you have to be under, like you said, that 17 hours
time requirement. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, but, and that's the thing that in my mind it has always been a little bit weird. If we even just take like the golden ticket race, they're not necessarily race in my mind that would prepare you specifically for Western State. So they're like Javelina in my, like it's not a mountain race, and it's just a really fast course, and you need to be good with heat, which I guess is helpful for Western State. But Black Canyon is a little bit like that too. I don't see the profile as being so similar to a Western State, but it's a big race, a well-organized race, and that might be more the reason for that.
All right. Thanks for your recap, Simon. That's great. Much appreciated. Always nice to have inside intel. But Mark, if you wanted to touch on, I know you had all the statistics of the top men's and women's team or runner golden ticket earnings, all those. Stats. If you want to dive into that, that'd be great.
So for the women, Rachel Drake, Becca Wendell, and Laura Curitz, they were your top 3 women that all got golden tickets. Actually, and another thing super cool with Aravaipa, I don't know if other golden ticket races do this. I don't think they do, but Aravaipa actually pays the entry for these golden ticket winners also to Western States. So like hats off to Aravaipa for doing that. That's pretty cool. And like I said, I haven't heard of that from other golden ticket races. I want to say the top women there from 3rd to 7th place after that, it was only like another 13-minute span between. So the women's race was pretty tight. And the top 10 were separated by like 55 minutes this year. Last year, 68 minutes. So just shows the sport's advancing, getting fast people out there. I think you had 2 women that were like sub 240 marathoners in there. So getting women out there with leg speed, really moving quickly along trails. So really cool to see the sport advance.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think like the competitive field is getting deeper and deeper, which is always a great sign for sure. I was surprised, and I don't know if you know more beyond these people, but there were runners that I was surprised to not see on the podium, and I don't even know how they finished. There's Heather Jackson and Lucy.
So Heather, she led, man, till Black Canyon City or so, and it was Rachel Drake and I believe Beck Wendell were kind of right there behind her for most of the way, and they kept saying on the live stream that Heather Jackson was out there to like time trial the first 50K and then just play it by ear after that. So I'm guessing play it by ear didn't happen or didn't work out that well for her after that. Although it seemed like she still held on for a while. And then it all of a sudden went from her being in the lead to these other 2 women had taken over, and she had fallen back 3 minutes. And then it was like, boom, she just dropped out of the top 10. I think she ended up finishing between 12th and 15th or so. And Lucy Bartholomew, I don't remember where she might have been right around 11th, but don't quote me on that. But yeah. You're right.
I see Tara's down at 7th. Tara Dower. She's where's she from? She's from the East Coast, but we know her from Run Rabbit Run, right?
Correct. Yeah, I want to say she won that. And then she was at there's the classic picture of her at Javelina with all the cactus. So it looked like Howie Stern got a picture of her all bloody from this race as well. She took a crash. And they had those 2 pictures like back to back to each other. But
but she still finished though. I mean, it's she was bleeding from everywhere. So I mean, good for her to keep it up. I mean, she's tough, and she's a good runner, no question.
She is
7th place, just like Mark said. 7th place, being Tara, that was like a 9-minute or 13-minute gap right there. So in 13 minutes, roughly 5 runners came in, something along those lines.
Right. So 7th place.
They're all chasing each other. Yeah.
Right. 7th place is only 13 minutes out of getting a golden ticket. I'll tell you what, watching the live feed, watching them run in, wow, like I'm not running that fast at the beginning of a race, and they're still just like trucking into the finish line. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always say I ran 100K, but what I mean by that is not running, but for them, it is actually running, which is insane. Like it's a pace that is so fast. And even on technical trail, they just go for it sometimes. And I guess apparently they fall sometimes, but I mean, you got to take the risk.
Yeah, we all fall for sure. But it was cool. They actually caught the move on the live stream with the drone. I think it was like the last river crossing, or were there multiple river crossings, Simon?
Yeah, there were 4 of them, and there's one I did not expect. So that's probably the one they did with the drone towards the end. Yep.
So the Becca, she had like a little misstep, and Rachel Drake just boom took off, and seemed like that was the deciding move to win the race right there, even though that was still some miles out. But I think she put about 5 minutes on her from the river to the finish line. So
pretty cool.
Yeah, and then for the guys, Hayden Hawks, man, that dude's a crusher. New course record. Pretty impressive.
What was it? What was the old one?
7. I think he beat it by about 2 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, so 7:30 and some change.
That was his finish time, but so it's 7:32.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure it was last year. Was Anthony Costales? Yeah, good job, Hayden. And it sounded like he did some training on the course. And I know, Brian, you as a coach, you're all about at that certain time in training, the specificity of training. And you look at what Hayden trained on the course, Jim Walmsley trained at UTMB, just goes to show that like doing that, it can pay dividends. So sorry about my cat.
Simon and I probably should get out to the Cocodona Trail then and go
I expect to see you guys leading. But yeah, then what's super cool is, I mean, a guy that no one in the U.S. has probably ever heard of, Jupiter Carrera Casas, a gentleman from Mexico. Believe he's the first Latin American to ever win a golden ticket, comes in second, and he's only, I think it's 9 minutes maybe behind Hayden. Yeah, pretty great run there for him. And then who was Chris Myers was only a couple minutes back from Jupiter. So yeah, your top three. Then the dude that came in fourth, I think it was Craig Hunt. He was around top 10 at Table Mesa or so, and he ran all the way up to fourth place and just missed third by 3 minutes. There's the video of him coming in. Actually, no, that was Nate Juice that makes the pass at the gate. But yeah, watching those guys run in on the live stream, woo! I mean, they're probably still running 7 minute pace, like coming into the finish line.
It's moving.
Yeah, it's wild.
So, I think also for the guys, the top 10 was only separated by like 33 minutes. So very competitive race. That's great. Yeah. Great for our sport. And great that Aravaipa's putting it out there for people to watch. And actually not just watch the fast folks. Like you could see Simon and Nora finish also, and everyone that finished you got to see finish. So like pretty cool.
Yeah, they do a good job at that, and definitely in the past few years they've expanded their kind of live coverage capabilities, and that's becoming maybe not the standard, but it seems that that's the direction that they're going, at least for their major race and covering hard rock. So yeah, and I really hope that they will put some focus on the little guys, because obviously the pro runner, they get a lot of visibility, but I think it's amazing what people do out there, and everyone should have like their little time in the spotlight. It's amazing stories sometimes. It's not necessarily the fastest runner that has the most amazing journey to the finish line. So,
right.
That live coverage stream is just growing in popularity. I mean, we're all sitting on our computers all weekend watching these events now, and I got my phone out just checking like all weekend long, like, hey, who's where and where are they at, type of thing. And it's growing outside of Aravaipa. Run Rabbit Run picked it up. A couple others picked up Aravaipa's services and tried to like replicate it on their own side, or just asked Aravaipa to show up and help them out with it.
And it sounded like they're actually looking to expand to more races as well. One of the guys that was one of the dudes in the field, Zach, it sounded like he got a promotion to a position where like that's his job now, is to go find races to take this to. So it'll be exciting to see what they do.
I'll watch them. I'll be watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. Thanks for the recap, Mark, on Black Canyon, and Simon as well, from the front of the pack to the middle of the pack. I got a couple alternative topics. Just wanted to touch on real quick. Obviously, a big headline in the marathon world is the passing of Kelvin Kiptum. He was the winner of the Chicago Marathon, 24 years of age. He ran at 2 hours and 35 seconds. the world records fastest time on an official course for the marathon, and unfortunately passed away, I believe on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, but just in the last couple of days or so. Just big news and headline news all over the running community.
Yeah, no, it's very sad. And I mean, obviously when that happened for me, I didn't even believe it. I saw it actually on the like satirical Facebook group first. I was like, oh, like that's a weird thing to joke about. But yeah, and wholly unrelated to running also, which is kind of sad or not sad. It's hard to describe, but some people would say, well, you know, if you had a heart problem, that could have been an explanation, but no, a car crash it's a pretty tragic loss for sure. And he was up and coming. I think he had much more runway, and we'll never know what he could have done. So very sad.
Yeah, he was in a car accident. For those that don't know, he was in a car accident with his coach, and they both passed away. There was a third occupant in the vehicle that was being monitored, but did survive the crash. But Kiptum and his coach did pass away, unfortunately, in the car accident. I believe I read this week, and Mark might correct me. I believe I read that he ran 4 marathons, and they were like in the top 7 fastest times ever recorded.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was definitely on the chase of the 2 hour or breaking the 2 hour mark at 2 hours and 35 seconds.
Yeah, no, tragic loss of life, of course, you know, thought to the family, friends, and loved one for sure. And he had so much potential. Like, I mean, what you were hearing most commonly was like he's gonna burn out because he's doing it too fast, too aggressively. But at the same time, he already had such a resume. But yeah, cut short.
Yeah, definitely a tragedy. And as fans of running, we're all going to miss out on what could have been like the biggest showdown in marathons at the upcoming Olympics with him and Kipchoge. But yeah, condolences to the family.
I'll move on to another topic that I threw up there, was that Suunto partnered with UTMB. I don't think you guys are Suunto users, right? Are you guys Suunto users? I am.
Look, if they want to sponsor me a free watch, I'm gonna use it. It's that simple at this stage in my life. But no, I use a Garmin myself.
Yeah,
I know Mark. I know Mark's definitely not a Suunto user. No, for no reason. He's just a Garmin fan, right? But Suunto and UTMB, and what that really means for the Suunto product is that UTMB World Trail, 41 World Trail races will have their a unique course, a GPX file that you could download to one of their new 2 watches. The Suunto Traverse and another one, I think it's called like the Alpha.
Wait, it's just like a GPX file on your watch?
Yeah, but it's super cool.
Oh, okay. So like they give you like the shortcut version of the race. It's like if you have the Suunto, you have like 2 less miles.
You can see this climb here.
It sounded a little hokey, but it sounded like in my envision of it was that, like, you know, when you drive your car and you put in the GPS to go drive somewhere, and it says like a landmark, like, oh, there goes some bald rock or something like that, some landmark. It says the course will show landmarks and water stations for each event. And I was like, I don't know if I'm checking out landmarks while I'm trying to run, like in the event. Like, I might check it out before the event or after the event, but that's just me. So
does that mean Simon and we won't be able to upload the GPX file to our Garmin's?
Well, only if we run UTMB race. So
it'll be long though, Mark. It'll be like 220 miles. Garmin. So I just think that's interesting. I bet it wouldn't even pop up, quite honestly, in most of our feeds. But UTMB is a hot topic, and I believe that's why it popped up in my feed. I'm also a Suunto user, but Mark did that as well.
And I see some positive in the news like that. I think we've been harsh on UTMB for both good and bad reason, but I mean, one of the things that they do is bring money to the sport and finding sponsorship like that, and that's just a sign that if they're profitable and they're able to bring other company and that might benefit the sport, it's just a matter of greed that you have to be careful. So I'm not against a sponsorship like that. I think it makes way more sense than a car company, quite frankly. I see a difference a little bit there. So yeah. And I did have a news. I don't know if you wanted to move on to the next one.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean the one that I've seen that that I was also very surprised myself that popped up was Stein Angermund. I'm pronouncing it wrong, despite I mean I lived in Scandinavia. He's a Norwegian, so I should be able to say his name. But he's a great trail runner, great resume. With I think the Golden Trail series, he's performed very well on that, and he's done longer distance too. He was a winner of OCC last year. And he disclosed on his Instagram, I think, that he had tested positive after the race, after OCC for, I think it was a diuretic, but I mean, the reason you would take a diuretic is to hide, usually probably steroids or something like that. And he's obviously fighting or contesting the results, but that was a little bit surprising for me. And I think there's been a lot of support for him by other runner that, you know, they want to see what's his story, what's his side, and all of that. But I surprised, and maybe I declare him guilty too early, but disappointed or sad, I would say, but not so much about him, but about the state of the sport, I would say, at the higher level. And maybe that's skeptical me, but I don't know what you guys think. Like, do you think doping at the high level is common or not? Do you think it's the exception? Or, you know, or should we feel bad for him because he was the unlucky one? He's the unlucky one that got caught.
Go ahead, bro.
Here's my take on it. I think we've seen a clean sport for years, a pretty decent clean sport in ultra running itself for the last couple of years. But our sport is growing, and what that means is it's growing. You know, we're getting new runners, we're getting new athletes. Not that Stiem, or I'm glad you tried to pronounce it first, Simon. But but this gentleman isn't new to the sport. But the sport is growing, and as it grows, there's more money involved in it now too. There's sponsorships, there's paychecks, there's brands that are given earnings that people can make a living on, and that brings with it the negative as well as the positive. And I think we're going to start to see it a little bit more in the sport as well. Some of these tests, I think this is probably one of the first few I've heard of in the sport of ultra running, of somebody popping positive, but I just think it's part of the growth. Unfortunately, I'm not saying I'm for it or in by any means, but I just think because it's growing, we'll start to see it start to come up more. People are going to look for ways to better their chances of performance. That's my take on it. What do you got, Mark?
Man, I really hope that he can prove that he didn't.
Yeah, same. And of all the people I would suspect, he's very low on my list. He's such a positive guy, and he's passionate about the sport. So I hope, and I agree with you, that he's not guilty. But there's been a positive test, and it's hard to deny, you know, smoking gun, basically.
Yeah, it definitely could be my naivety. And I mean, I went that way with cycling for a long time and believed in Lance Armstrong, and I'm a dumbass. So
Believed in who?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't want to be that guy again, but I just hope our sport doesn't go the way of cycling, or isn't going the way of cycling. It didn't really turn out great there, and I just have faith in our sport. I have faith in the people that are in our sport, and I want to think the best of them all. So
so go ahead. There's a delay.
No, you're good. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think it's a sport that is very positive, and I would hope that there's no pressure at the higher level to dope. The fact that we don't see many positive testing, though, doesn't really say much, because maybe there's a little bit of denial or naivete. It's most races don't test, and testing at the race is kind of pointless when you think about it. Obviously, if you know you're going to be tested for the race, you're doping during the training cycle, not just before the race. So his test, the most likely explanation is something like he took some supplement or some crap like that were containing the diuretic or something, and he had no clue about it, and that's the most likely explanation, right? And if that's the case, he's clean. But there's no testing, there's no control, and there's more and more money. So who knows? Unfortunately.
So I think I just follow up with the fact that I'm going to stick to my story that I think that we'll start to see it more as the sport grows. But by no means do I find this guy guilty by any means, this particular athlete. I think just like any process, if he can prove himself clean and I'm obviously for it. I would love to see him win this battle, for lack of a better term, and kind of prove himself as a clean sport athlete. He seems pretty predominant, but again, going back to our American cycling roots, I think maybe Mark and I have been burned wholeheartedly believing in the guy.
But at some point, but at some point for me, actually, like I've never been such a big fan of cycling myself, but at some point I feel like I would rather have a situation where everyone is doping and then it's fair again, rather than having a few bad apples that are doping and then there's an unfair advantage. And I think cycling, especially back in the good old days, Lens was not the only one doping at all. They were all doping, and therefore then you come back to, well, who's training the best, who has like the best genetic, and who's just the best athlete. And yes, if you compare to the average cycling or runner, there's no way we would be able to compete with them because we're not doping. But at the same time, they are extremely talented and extremely driven. So I would rather think there's no one doping at all, but then we need to have some control, or everyone is doping and then I don't care anymore. And then I feel even worse when someone get caught because like, damn, like you're just doing like everyone else is doing,
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. This particular one, if it sets the precedent of, even if he still proclaims he's innocent and the governing body still finds him guilty, for whatever reason, like, they just don't agree. I wonder if it'll set the standard for more testing at other events and like kind of start this domino effect of more testing, or are we still keeping everybody on the honor system? Because of course nobody wants to test my pee because I'm not winning these things, but I've never been like tested or anything like that. I'm just like,
if we had too much money, we would be able to dope, but at the same time, it would be kind of sad for us to dope and be so bad at it.
Well, I could win my age group though. I could totally win my age group though.
I'm in the wrong age category to win ever. I think I need to get a little older now because I'm with the Jim Walsley. So not happening, man.
I'm moving up this year. I'm moving up to the old guys.
Nice.
So in the US, what race even tests? Like Western States does some testing.
I think that's the biggest, I feel for these race organizations and also for other athletes, for clean athletes. And even Stein himself, the support that he's received from the running community and other athletes, for me, kind of suggests that he's most probably clean. If you think about Lance, one of the biggest reasons everyone is pissed at him is it's not just the doping, because other people were doping. It's how he ruined other people's career. And it was such a, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. And Stein is the polar opposite of that. I think the issue is that, but even Lance Armstrong never tested positive, right? And they don't only test at race, they were testing in training all the time. So if you only test just before Western State, it's not going to really help. It would need to be random testing for pros. It's like I
thought Run Rabbit Run tested.
And they may, because they have a big prize purse.
Yeah. Uray was testing also.
And you're right, and it's you're right. If it's not being done throughout the season, right after the race. Yeah, anyone that's smart about how they're doing it is going to be clean then anyway. So
yeah, and then it just becomes like kind of almost a gambling thing. It's like, well, the only way I can win would be to still be doping, so I'm just gonna hope I don't get caught, and then that's kind of a weird system. But yeah, I don't have a good solution. I feel the one that is weird though is that sponsors never get hit when one of their athletes is dirty, and that I feel might be a way that they would be like, look, like I'm Nike, I'm sponsoring this guy, and he turned out to test positive for doping, and I need to pay the whatever athletic association like $500,000. So then they would themselves be incentivized to actually test their athlete. And maybe that would lead to a cleaner sport. I don't know, because then it's really tied to their income. The income from pro runner is from sponsors. So if sponsor were stepping in to make sure it was clean, maybe that would work out. I really don't know.
Well, the U.S. Postal Department made money on Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, they sued him, right?
Yeah, and they still are.
Yeah,
they did sue him for quite a bit of money.
So they won. Actually, I don't know that part. They won against him.
I'm almost certain that he lost and owes the U.S. government money. And on a complete side note, I don't know why he's recently left Aspen, but he doesn't live in Aspen anymore.
Yeah, no, he moved back to Austin. Yeah,
full time to Austin. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see where that one goes. But I think we kind of talked that one into the ground a little bit, so we'll move on. Mark had some current events in the sport, sort of in our wheelhouse. Some Milrose games. What are the Milrose games, Mark?
So it's well, that's back in your neck of the woods, Brian, New York. It was the 116th running of them. It's indoor track and field. So that's
a lot. It sounds like a lot of laps.
Yeah, right. Although Leanne and I think it was on Sunday. Yeah, while we were prepping some food leading up to the Super Bowl, happened to see that it was on, so turned it on there for.
Is Milrose banked?
What was that?
Banked?
Is it banked?
Milrose banked track? It's not a banked track?
No, or it didn't appear to be to me. I'm pretty sure it's flat. But yeah, we turned it on, caught maybe the second half of, I think it was maybe on for like an hour and a half or so. But we did, with the Olympics coming up, it seems like people are out firing all cylinders, running hard. So we did get to see some world records, a lot of national records. I guess one of the more exciting races we got to see was the men's 2 mile. And these races, I'm assuming they pay like rabbits to go out and run fast for the first mile to keep them on world record pace. And so then Airman Grant Fisher from the U.S., basically he and, was it Josh Kerr, broke away from the field. And they're crushing. It was pretty fun to watch. We were jumping up and down because it was like world record the whole way. And basically last lap, Josh Kerr from Great Britain broke away from Grant and just missed going under 8 minutes for 2 miles. So he went like 8:00 and change, broke the world record. Grant Fisher came in 3 seconds behind. And then Leanne and I's our favorite, Cole Hawker. This dude runs just with pure heart, man. We watched him in college. He's been on our Olympic team, and he's the dude that's like in the back of the pack. And then on the last lap, just like makes up 15 yards to get into medal contention. And he came in third. But five of the top 7 all broke national records from their respective countries. So, like I said, guys, firing all cylinders, getting ready for the Olympic Games this summer. So fun to watch. I know there was a world record broken in the 60-meter hurdles for the women, and bunch of more national records in some of the other races. But
so the Olympics are every 4 years, and I mean I totally get it. And these guys are like on a 3.5 year training plan, basically, with the Olympics about 6 months away or so. Do we see this every 4 years, like these records just coming down? Because it just seems like last weekend at the Olympic trials, the marathon Olympic trials, or 2 weekends ago now, those records came down, and there was a bunch of people under the qualifying standard there. And now, like at the Melrose Games, these records are going down. And I know they're getting fit and they're getting ready for the big show in Paris. But is that typical for every 4 years? I mean, I guess I don't recall 4 years ago this many records being broke in the lead up to the Olympics.
Yeah, myself, I mean, offhand, I don't really recall either. 4 years ago, I don't even know what I was doing. But I think people are coming up, they're getting stronger, they're learning how to train better and smarter, and we're seeing it in not just running, but I mean a lot of sports, that people are getting faster. And it'll be interesting to see where the top of that, is going to land. But it seems like at some point we got to be getting to as fast as we can go. I mean, people run 60 meter hurdles in 7.67 seconds. Like, that's pretty fast. Like, I couldn't do that without hurdles there. But
they're running 2 miles in 8 minutes, and I'm probably good for 1 mile right now.
And that's a really fast ultramarathon mile.
Yeah. That's like the finish line. That's like the show off the red carpet speed. Like that's
right. Yeah, like 16-minute miles, great for me.
Okay, what's coming up then, Mark? What's next?
Man, so I mean, this weekend, I believe we have Simon running again at Jackpot. Simon, our man. You're doing the 100 again, Simon?
Yeah. Well, last year actually I did the 24-hour with the goal of doing a 100-mile, and now I'm doing the flip side of that. I'm doing the 100-mile and really aiming for a sub 24.
Cool.
And you get both awards then?
What?
You get both awards?
I get no awards, but I get a buckle, so that's good enough for me.
Okay.
Well, and tomorrow, the first part of Jackpot is the USATF 100-mile road national championship. So the fast guys lead the weekend off. We also have Tarawera, race where you can go get some stones for UTMB. That's this weekend. And then the following weekend we have our next world trail major race with Trans Gran Canaria. And just glancing at that field, man, that field looks pretty stacked. You got your Courtney and Zach and Jim, and just that quick glance, those are a couple of the names. So looks like there could be some fireworks there.
You should send me your Vegas picks, Mark.
Actually, they don't have that one on Free Trail, which I was kind of bummed, but they do you guys need to get on that. We need to make a wager and see who has the most points at the end of the year.
Like that,
yeah.
All right, it's on.
I love it. We can take my points away from this past weekend. Plus, they were pretty bad picks anyway. So,
Simon, you were just at Black Canyon, and you're going to Jackpot this weekend. What does your week look like for recovery? Like, what are you doing this weekend? Where are you? Are you even home? Did you even go home?
No, we went directly to Vegas actually, and then we realized it was a Super Bowl day. That was not great, but now it's better. Honestly, I haven't ran at all this week for 3 days. I had quite a lot of pain in my heel and Achilles, but I just did some stationary bike just to keep moving, active recovery. I'm not 100% at all. I'm probably 70, 80%. So the sub 24 will actually be pretty rough. It's an easy course. but I'm definitely not healed from that. I think the advantage is that we didn't necessarily push that hard last weekend, so I didn't race at my full speed, which helped me recover a little bit faster. But yeah, it's a movie editing week. That's how I would describe it.
Is that loop all concrete, Simon?
No, well, maybe it is this year, but it's in a park, and like some of it is kind of packed dirt, and some of it is pavement. And it seems flat, but there's a little bit of inclination, which is definitely runnable, but it probably adds up to a good like 4,000 feet, I would say. So that's not, absolutely flat, but it's definitely like a fast course. And I think like Camille Aron did a really, really fast time a couple of years ago. So the pros can do like in the 12 hours, I think.
So
I'm not.
So tomorrow's event, tomorrow being the 16th of February, just to kind of date ourselves here, which will probably be passed by the time you're listening to this thing. But the pros on Friday will do a 1 mile loop with a lot less turns. And then what is the distance for Saturday then for yourself?
It's like it's super like it's to the centimeter or whatever, the inch, but like it's like 2.112326. And the course is actually kind of famous for Camille Heron had like beaten the world record for the 100 mile, but the course was short by 200 feet out of 100 mile, which is like heartbreaking, really. But that's why I think they have to be so accurate, is because like it needs to be 100 mile. So what we do is kind of a C shape, and then we go back. Whereas the pros they do just like a quick loop like this, 1 mile loop, 1 mile-ish.
Do they change direction?
We do change direction because it's kind of an in and out. Like you go one direction on the C and you're almost at the finish, but then you turn around and it's not 100% the same. Like there's kind of parallel track at some point, but yeah, it's kind of a weird loop, which I mean makes it, I guess, a little bit less mentally debilitating, but it's still pretty harsh and pretty boring. It's not my type of race usually. I wanted a fast 100 mile just to say like, can I still do it? But then I'm going back on trail. It's not my idea of fun, honestly. So.
And it's just outside of Vegas in Henderson, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the city limits are, but like it's not on the strip. Like that would actually be kind of interesting actually if it was like on the strip, but no, it's not a random park. The cool thing is like people actually do come walk their dog and they're like, what the hell is going on right now? That is actually interesting because there's a huge crowd. And I think it's because it's a course that is fairly mild, it attracts a lot of the like the 100 miler people. A lot of them are at this race, like a lot of them. So you see big names like these kind of stable name that are always racing everywhere. They kind of unite at this race. And you have also last year was a lot of pretty old runner also, which was interesting to see. They start the Friday, so I got to see them finish their 100 mile, which was pretty cool. Like I think they're in their 80s or something crazy like that. So to be able to do that at that age is extremely impressive and inspiring.
Did they give them, is it a longer cutoff then, Simon?
That's a good question. Probably, yeah. I mean, they start on the Friday with, like the world or the US final, which I don't even know if there is a cutoff for that one. For us, we have, I think, 30 hour.
30.
But based on how Aravaipa usually run their race, that probably means that they have 54 hour. Like Aravaipa, usually if the aid station is still open, they let people do it.
Right.
So that's what I would think. But yeah, the ones I saw were finishing in, I think, like 33 hours, 36 hours, maybe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, crazy. Very impressive.
Gosh, I sort of want to be running when I'm 80, but I don't know. I'm turning 50 this year, so I just hope to be running when I'm 51.
Yeah, but do Leadville every year until you're 80. They will have to make like a big buckle for like your 4,000 mile, I want to see that.
I'll probably get in every year too. I've gotten every lottery I've ever done for Leadville.
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either. Hey, so let's move on though to the coach's corner. It's my little section. I am a coach. I full-time coach online at home, and I have a little blip in our little show here called Coach's Corner. It's basically like an Ask a Coach, and I went online onto Facebook and I asked a bunch of athletes to give me some questions, and I got 2 of them here, and I'll run through them real quick, or at least I'll run through the first one, and I'd love to hear you guys' feedback as well. So the first one is from Cassidy B, and she asks, what are some ways to combat feeling like you don't belong or aren't strong enough, tough enough in the ultra running world? And I know Cassidy, and Cassidy, I just hit her up the other day because I saw on her workout she did. She rates her. I asked her as a coach to rate her workouts. Was it an A, a B, or a C? And she was like, this was like a C minus. It was a horrible run. She didn't really want to do it. She was tired. It was fresh snow on the ground. It was like 8 inches of snow, and she trudged through it. And I explained, I said, those are the runs when I'm at the starting line and I'm nervous and I have that butterfly gut going on and I think about all the work I've done. I think about that snowy run I didn't want to do. And she trudged through the snow for 90 minutes, even though she didn't want to do it. And that was what was prescribed, And so for me, that's part of like feeling like I belong there. I think consistency, doing the work, doing it consistently, and trying my hardest, whether or not I get it all in or not for the week. I feel like that's part of me feeling like part of the community as well. And in sharing in the community as well, volunteering at other events, sharing in the camaraderie, whether it's either online or working in the aid station or crewing pacing for somebody, making friends with my local running club participants. All those I feel like are also great ways of feeling you're part of the community and sharing in the camaraderie of ultra running. I really think there's a good bit of that that's also just in your head as well. And not to discredit your feelings by any means, Cassidy, but where I'm going with it is that it's really just built up in your head, and the community is not that way. We don't feel like, oh, you belong and you don't belong. I feel like we're welcoming of all shapes and sizes and abilities, including Simon and I at the middle to back of the pack. So that's just kind of my rough answer. What do you guys got to add to that?
Mark, do you want to go first?
Good, Simon.
I go. All right, I will go. I mean, Cassidy, I'm glad you asked the question, because I think what I love about trail running is that everyone is important and everyone brings something unique. Courtney is, she's great. She's a great runner. She's a great person in the community, but you belong just as much as she does. It's not just the winner that belongs here. It's everyone. And you bring something unique just by smiling to people, just by giving high five, just by being there. I think you belong. And that's a very positive environment. Nobody's judging you. I think for me, myself, and also acknowledging, yeah, it's all in your head. But it's also all in my head. It's also in basically everyone's head. It's normal to kind of feel that kind of self-conscious, like I'm not the fastest runner, I'm not the strongest runner, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm lost all the time. But you belong just as much, new runner, old runner, all the same. And for me to not tough enough or not strong enough, I think it's just, I look around me and there are people that are slower or don't go as far as I do, and there are people that go further and are faster, and that's always going to be like that. What really matters is that you're working on yourself and that you're happy with where you are, and acknowledging that it's a normal feeling is helpful for me to know, like, look, everyone feels that way. Truth is, I belong here. I bring something unique. I'm positive. I'm smiling, and I'm working on myself. I'm better today than I was yesterday. So yeah, I'm going in the right direction.
It's great. That's a great advice, Simon. What do you got, Mark?
So Cassidy, you're a badass for going out and running 90 minutes in the snow. That's never easy. Yeah, I think as both Brian and Simon said, it is stuff in our head, and it's not always easy to work it out of your head. I mean, just like me sitting here with these two guys, like these are guys that have Simon's run 35, 36 100s or something. Brian's run 8 Leadvilles, 1300s. I've finished 2 100s and a 200. So, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I don't necessarily know that I belong on this talk with these fellows that are maybe not professional as like fast guys, but these guys are professionals as far as experience, knowledge.
Dude, you just called me slow. Dude, not cool. Not cool. Wow.
Simon, you ran a 16-hour 100. You are not slow.
Yeah, I mean, it's on, Leadville, no quarter, man. No, not okay. We're not sharing the 8-station tent anymore. That's it. It's war now.
Oh,
we're gonna have 3 tents right next to each other.
So wait, are you guys buying tents this year?
No, we'll be friends again by then. Don't worry. Yeah. I forget very quickly.
You should bring yours still, Mark.
Yes, please do.
Don't worry. It'll be set up.
Hey, Cassidy, I hope that answers your question. Always feel like you could reach out to any of us if we didn't. But I'll move on to the second question. One last question before we wrap this episode up is from Tracy B. That was Cassidy B. This is Tracy B. Anyway, Tracy asks, what are some tips for planning a race pacing strategy for ultra distances? There's a number. I guess I'm kind of stuck. I'm trying to think through this one. Even though
do you want me to start? I can start with that one.
Sure.
I'm pretty good at that. So I think that I'm pretty good at bad example basically. So I can tell you what not to do, and then maybe you can figure it out, and then let me know, please. But through this, like you have to ask yourself, like, what are you trying to do? For myself, most of the race, I come in thinking what I really want to do is finish. And that means that I'll start at the pace that is extremely conservative, that is slower than I think I should be able to do this. And hey, if 80% of the mile are in and I'm feeling pretty good, okay, why not accelerate? But you can't go backward and say, I start too fast. Like, you're pooped out and it's game over. So if your only goal is to just finish and potentially even feel not like shit, then start slower than you think, and then you're gonna start slow. And I mean, that's one of the tips that I gave is like, you need to run slower, dummy. Like you're always gonna go too fast. It's that simple. On the other hand, if you're trying to PR, you have to be aggressive and you have to know yourself, and that will come from experience of trying and pushing the limit a little bit. Because clearly for me, my fastest race are race that I look back and I'm thinking, man, that was such a stupid plan. I was running by feeling and I was just pushing too hard, and I could have blown up. But that specific day just so happened that I didn't blow up, and I did a wonderful time. But I had the same strategy sometimes and totally blew up. And then, you do like your first 50 mile in 8 hours, and then you do the last 50 mile in like 20 hours. And that's not a good feeling. So start slower if you want to feel good. But if you want to PR, start stupid fast. And then you'll understand why I said that's not the best way to do it. But anyway.
You got anything, Mark?
I mean, starting slow is pretty good advice. It all depends too. Like if you're trying to big belt buckle at a race, whether that's 25 hours or 24 hours. I know at Javelina, I had a number in my head that I needed to be under. I believe it was like 14:23. And whenever I saw under that, I was, yeah, let's go. You can do it. And yeah, I saw under that for a long time, and I got lucky. lucky. But it's also hard. Races that have a lot of climbing, you can't get stuck looking at that time on your watch when watch beeps, because you went from running a 10-minute mile to, whoa, that one took 30 minutes because, it was 1,000 feet in a mile. So Simon said, staying comfortable. I think that's your best bet.
Yeah, and can I actually, you made me think of something. Yeah, I mean, staying comfortable for sure. Like slow and steady is faster than fast and crash. So you need to listen to yourself. But if you have a time goal, what I have done when I had like an aggressive time goal is go back in time and look at other people that have raced the race and look at their split by aid station, and you'll be able to track not just by like on average I should be 14-minute mile, but for that segment they were done within 2 hours. Are you ahead of that or behind that? And then you'll be able to adjust. Like if you're 155, hey, maybe slow down a little bit. If you're 205, hey, accelerate in the next segment. And that will help on courses that are not as straightforward, like places like Wasatch or things like that, where you have both fast miles and slow miles out there.
Yeah, a lot of these races have like pace charts too, or someone that's done the race before will have that on, say, a Leadville Facebook page or what say. So you can always check those out.
Yeah, the bigger races will have that kind of information out there. But again, to Simon's point, you could always go to last year's results and kind of figure out who was in that time frame that you're trying to hit. Maybe look back a couple years and statistical numbers and kind of see what paces they were running and what sections they were running that at. Tracy, I would say I used to give Mark, back in the day in 2010, I used to give him my pace chart. I used to tell him when I was going to hit every aid station down to the 10-minute mark, and it never, ever happened. So I stopped making it, right? So I'm not saying don't make a pace chart, don't make a plan, but hold on to it really, really loosely. Sometimes the first 20 miles are the worst in your event. Maybe it's the middle 20 miles, maybe it's the last 20 miles. And so as long as you don't buy into the fact that you're out of the game, like, oh, the first 20 miles were so slow, I lost my goal time. You can run in 100 miles, you could run the other 80 miles and feel great and bounce back and still hit your goal time. So you're never really out of the loop. There's always so much time in these events. I think pacing strategies, maybe in that same thread, I think we kind of geared towards one direction of it, but I do coach athletes to do like a run walk series as well. So they maybe a run for 6 minutes and walk for 4. And I suggest that for maybe like the first 60% of a race. So you could kind of just get a feel for where you're at. And then after that, you could do whatever you want. If you're feeling great, you could continue running. If you're not feeling that great, you can continue walking. But you've built that process up and got consistent for 60% of the event before you went on to finish the other 40% in whatever felt best for you. Plus fatigue sets in and all those things. I think that answers the question in some sort of way. I don't recall the last time I gave Mark a split timer though, and when I was going to be somewhere. Do you recall, Mark?
Yeah, no, I think most of the time, Brian, we just figure it out on our own now. Especially since it's 200s. I mean, I could be waiting for 10 hours.
I'll be there when I get there, Mark.
That's right.
Don't rush me.
Well, I hope that answers the question, Tracy. And again, just like Cassidy, if it didn't, always feel like you can reach out and we'll give you a little more clarity if that helps. And I think that's pretty much a wrap, guys. What else you got? Anything else? Any last parting words, you guys?
Simon, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Run fast tomorrow, or hope you feel, Saturday. Hope you feel fresh and recovered, and go have some fun.
Yeah.
48 laps?
How many people?
48 laps? What is that?
That's a good question.
2 point something.
I think my guess is like 44 or 45, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, they have like a computer screen that says like the distance you're at. If I had to count them, like it would be a disaster. That would not. No.
Is Nora running? Is Nora running?
I don't think so. No, I think she's planning to go hiking in the Red Canyon, Red Rock Canyon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is it live streamed?
I think. Well, yeah, but I think it's more like the championship is live stream. I'm not sure afterwards. So probably, yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, that's a wrap, guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on, Mark. We hope to see you a lot more often in here. And,
yeah, that was fun, Mark.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's fun hanging out on, what is this, Google Meets, Brian?
Yes, the Meets.
Cool. All right. Well, stay strong and prosper, guy.
As well. Simon, buckle up this weekend.
Yeah, go get it, brother.
Thanks.